All right, let me just refresh. Perfect. all, all right. We are live now. All right, welcome everyone to the 20th episode of Goddess Spotlight with Liaserenityrose. I'm your host, Leah. And of course, my special guest here with me today is the amazing and talented Deven Mack.
Hey, 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 hey. Thank you so much for having me. And my goodness, I'll try my best to live up to those amazing and talented expectations. We'll see. Don't get your hopes too high.
All right. As per usual, you guys are more than welcome to put your questions in the live stream chat and to ask Devin any questions you have. It doesn't have to be Sonic related, it can be any of his other voice work roles as well. So,
Right.
you guys,
Let's get it.
all right, let's get started. So, here's my first question for you, Devin. How did you get into voice acting? How did you become interested in voice acting, and what inspired you to pursue this career?
Kind of one of the most unlikely journeys ever because I was the shyest kid in school. I thought that I was going to be a basketball player. And then, unfortunately, I'm still the same height now that I was when I was 13. So I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. But I was also really, really shy. If you had told me that I was going to become a voice actor at that age, I'd say you're a crazy person. But I was really, really drawn to cartoons at the same time. Me being the shy kid, I'd see really, really outlandish personalities and say, like, yo, I kind of want to get like that. And two shows in particular that meant a lot to me were one called, I think some might have heard of, called Pokemon. uh, I was really,
Oh.
really a huge fan of Team Rocket and the voice actors for those characters, but also a little show called Samurai Pizza Cat, which is a very, very obscure anime from the early 90s. And hearing the voice actors' voice demos from that show for the first time had me be like, wait, this is a career. Oh my goodness, I'm in a city where there's a voice acting industry. Why don't I try to do this now that basketball is not happening? And lo and behold, 14 months later, I started doing my first TV show after doing a lot of stuff online on Newgrounds for a little bit. So I've been doing this for 18 years, and it's been a wild ride filled with many surprises.
Wow, that's amazing, Devin. Like you literally started out thinking you would be a basketball player, then
Mhm.
look at you now. Doing this
It
for
turned
18
out turned
years?
out all right. Not too bad, if I say so myself.
Ooh, nice. All right. Looks like I see a question from Kevin in the live stream chat. My question for Devin is, what is it like working in the Canadian animation industry?
Okay. That one is, oh, there are so many layers to that question. Uh, what's really neat, I would say, about it, specifically the Vancouver side, which is where I started to work in the more recent years, they are very, very big on getting people to record together in the same room whenever possible. That is not as common in LA and in Toronto, but it's a big part of the vibe in Vancouver. So you get that kind of camaraderie with your castmates. You kind of get to become a family and you have your inside jokes, and sometimes they make it into the show. And then COVID happened, and then people weren't recording in the same room as much anymore. But it's still a really, really cool market. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of anime going on there. There tends to be maybe somewhere between 2 to 0 anime being recorded in Canada at any given time. And I think right now we might be at 0. So that's one of the trickier things. But still, a lot of cartoons get made there, especially a lot of shows that are aimed at little kids, Paw Patrol, all kinds of things. So there's still a lot of work when there is a lot of work.
Mm,
There's ups and downs, I will say.
very interesting to know about the Canadian side of the industry.
Mhm. What also helps me out is a lot of people struggle with sounding more American for a more global market. A lot of shows produced in Canada are also marketed towards the US, but because my background isn't really Canadian, my background is more American Caribbean. So I have not been one of the people who has to be told, "Oh, watch out for saying ilt in a built," and I'm like, that ain't me. I'm not from that, so it helps me out in that regard.
Mm, very, very interesting. Very interesting. All right. So here's my next question for you, Devin. Are there any professional voice actors who inspired you to become a voice actor yourself? If so,
Oh
can you
yes,
name them?
absolutely. Well, a couple of them I just got to meet this past weekend because they were in Toronto for Fan Expo, the convention over there. Big one absolutely is Charles Martinet, known for basically all of the Mario characters for the most part. Well, definitely not the princesses, but many of them. And man, going back to my Newgrounds days, I was basically the stand-in Charles Martinet. If there was Mario and Luigi voice in a Newgrounds cartoon, 95% chance that it was me. So I got a lot from him. Beautiful Joe is also one of my favorite games ever. That was a character played by D. Bradley Baker, who's also Appa and Momo in Avatar, as well as all of the clones in the Clone Wars. So, Beautiful Joe was a huge influence on a lot of the characters that I play. And I also got to give it up back to the cast of Samurai Pizza Cats, the cast of Pokemon, lots of amazing talents there. And the Vancouver people who worked on Beast Wars and Reboot and Dragon Ball Z. I have lots of influences. I could go on for days, so I'll just keep it at that for now.
Nice. I always love hearing because I know people always get inspired by other voice actors to pursue voice acting. And
Hmm.
I always love hearing everyone's answers because it's a lot of different voice actors now. So many
Yeah.
at this point.
Well, we're now in an era where we have a lot of people who grew up admiring voice actors, grew up watching cartoons and anime and saying, "Yo, I want to do this," and doing research online and being a part of that scene. But back in the day, a lot of people who ended up doing voice acting were people who wanted to be movie stars or musicians, and they'd somehow know a guy who knows a guy who's like, "Hey, I got a friend making a cartoon, want to come do some voices?" I guess sure, but now you actually have people who aspire to do that. So it's really cool where the industry has gone in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's just really evolved at this point.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. I see questions in the chat. I see a question from Sally Hedgehog.
Bring
My
it
question
on.
my question for Devin is how many years that I guess that you've been a voice actor?
All right. Yeah, for me, I started pursuing this just amateur wise. Is just I'm a little kid and I'm gonna try to do voices on the internet. That started in 2004, October 2004 to be specific. Sometimes I word weird. Um, so the very first role I actually ever had, I remember this. This was on Newgrounds for some kids' school project on politics. My very first role was during an election time. It was Senator John Kerry, who was running for president around that time. That was 20 years ago, my goodness. And then 14 months later, after pursuing it and taking a lot of classes and whatnot, I got my first agent and got my first TV show opportunity. That was on a show called Grossology. That was in January 2006 when I started doing that. So 18 years that I've been working professionally and almost 20 years since I started trying to do this as an amateur. That's horrifying. Okay, there's the answer. Oh my, time flies.
Yeah, it sure does. Like, but when you do any type of career, especially voice acting, like the years just go by so fast. Like,
Hmm.
where you don't, it's like, where's the time have gone since I've been
Yeah,
doing this?
I feel like I started recording for Sonic Prime like maybe like a year or so ago, but now it's it's closer to 4 years that I started recording for it. So, whoo, it's crazy. COVID just messed with the timeline for everybody. What is time? Who knows? I don't.
Oh, I see another question in the chat by Super Mario Anderson. Question for
Okay.
Devin. What's your favorite moment in Sonic Prime when you voiced Sonic?
Ooh, Mr. Anderson, you have a very good question. For me, my favorite moments always, always, always are any moment that I get to have. I got to take him up from here and not knock anybody else down. Any kind of very personal moment that Sonic has with Nine. I know that there's a lot of Sonic being, well, goofy, silly, kind of that's a lot of what they wrote, but when I get to have those really personal moments saying like, "Hey, you really are a friend to me. I care about you." That's the stuff that I connect with. It's the compassionate side that I really really enjoy exploring in the character. Not to say I don't have fun with the silly like hand puppets things as well, but my favorite is always when we get really personal and deep. I live for the subtlety.
Mm, nice. That's really cool that you love, like, you know, when Sonic starts to get sentimental,
Mm-hmm.
because we
Absolutely.
normal because we normally don't see that side of him, like in other media. It's very rare to see him like showing his more sentimental and vulnerable side. So it was like it to me it was like a breath of fresh air that
Mm-hmm.
you got to do that in the Sonic Prime TV show to show more sentimental aspect of Sonic and showing more the vulnerable side of Sonic.
Yeah, I'm really grateful they gave me those moments. Anytime I saw one of those in the script, I'm like, all right, we eating today. Let's go in. And I had a great time with it.
Mhm. I
Mr.
see.
Anderson, thank you for that great question.
Oh man, I'm I see another question in the chat. Cinder Cartoon Studios. Hi, Deven Mack. I like that you play Dimlit from Transformers Botbots. But who's your favorite character in the show? Do you love being a part of Transformers?
Oh, wow. So thank you so much for that Botbot shout out, by the way. That is a show that is very, very special to me, and I had an incredible time with. I'm glad you mentioned Dimlet because Dimlet is my favorite character. He's uh, much like Tails is very precious to me. Dimlet is in that similar way of just this very precious, like wholesome little boy, this little flashlight transformer, and he just wants to be the best that he can and just please the idol of his, which is Burgertron. Botbots is an incredible show where basically the Transformers turn into household objects instead of cars and planes. They turn into foods and just anything you find around your house. It's a very silly, fun show. Yeah, I adore Dimlet. Just getting to play that just that bright eyed youngster who's like, oh please, oh please, oh please, tell me I'm doing a good job. And that's my boy. I love him. I love him. I love all the characters that I got to play, but he's high up there. He's the highest up there. But Frost Feratu, the cupcake vampire, is very, very close, right there as well. Ah, 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 ah.
Nice. Ooh, I
Please
see
check out
another.
Botbots on Netflix. We'd love to have more seasons. I just got to get that in there.
All right, I see another question in the chat by David Zengi. One question. What was the most
Okay.
challenging character you've ever voiced in one show or game you did?
Ooh, okay. That is a tough question, but I think I've got an answer for it. Good question, David Nzengi, out there from Tanzania. For me, it's rare that I feel very, very challenged by something that's put in front of me. But in the case of one particular role, I was like shown a picture, and because it was not a character I auditioned for, I was just shown a picture, and I'm like, I was told like, okay, you've got like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Good luck coming up with something for this character in this video game who's got a bunch of lines. Oh, okay. Some of y'all might know where I'm going with this. He looked very kind of creature-esque and twisted, and his name was Volk from a game called Dragalia Lost. And I'm just like, what am I going to do with that? And then my mind immediately went to a voice that was done by a good buddy of mine named Edwin Tiong, who plays a lot of very twisted and evil characters. Some might know him as the voice of Nazo from Sonic Nazo Unleashed. So I'm like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to make it sound even more twisted and grotesque and irremissible. You will be infected with sickness. And that's how I came up with that boss character for Dragalia Lost. Again, just seeing that picture of a weird, grotesque-looking guy, immediately my head went to Edwin, a very, very grotesque guy with grotesque voices. And that's how I came up with that. But I was very, very worried for a moment. I'm like, what am I going to do? But that's where my head went. That's what you got to do sometimes in the business. You can't think, just got to go. Got to go at a pace.
Ooh, very interesting. All right, so I'm going to go and read one of my next questions for you, Devin.
All right.
What brand of recording equipment do you use to have the best sound quality, and which would you recommend?
Okay, so my answer here is that I am not the best person to talk to for tech things, but I will let you know what I'm working with. So I was very, very fortunate when I was recording for Total Drama Rama, where I do the Chef Hatchet voice. They really, really did not want things to stop during COVID, so they're like, we're gonna just ship all the equipment right to your house. So you can set it up in your wherever. In my case, my bedroom closet. So they sent me a bunch of boxes, and I have right here a Neumann TLM 103, which is many people consider it industry standard for recording in an actual studio. They would oftentimes use this. And then I've got a thingy that it plugs into that then plugs into my computer that is called a Yamaha Steinberg UR22. That is called a recording interface. Some people call it a preamp. And those are the main thingies that I go with. I can't say, again, I'm great on recommendations, but they have served me very, very well thus far.
Nice. That's really cool that they actually go the extra mile to actually ship the equipment to your house.
They don't do that for everybody. So I was very, very grateful, very, very lucky that those people helped me out in that regard. And I will say this, for somebody who's just starting out, you probably shouldn't spend the amount of money that these things cost. There are definitely solid microphones that you can find, just USB microphones where you could just plug and go. If you just want to do projects with your friends, or you're looking to do some indie things where the demands might not be nearly as high. So definitely try to do your research in that regard. I know I started out using like a Blue Snowball and a Blue Yeti, and now I think Logitech bought them, so they might have a different name now. But there are plenty of solid starter microphones out there that are not in the thousands of dollar range.
Mm, very interesting. Very good to know. Okay, here is my next question for you, Devin.
All
Are
right.
there are there any warm-ups you do for your voice before you record? If so, what type of warm-ups do you do?
Okay. Here's another question I can't give a whole lot on because that's not really ever been my vibe. I'm somebody who can just get up and go, which is especially handy now that I've got my recording set up here. There are times when I'll get a phone call. This doesn't happen a lot, but every now and then I get a phone call from my agent saying, "Hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be recording for the show right now." And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Jameson." That's not his name, but he acts like him. I'll be like, "Yeah, sorry. I'm literally in bed right now. I'm gonna jump out of bed and hop on Zoom. We're gonna record this." So, which is again works in my favor that I don't typically warm up. But I know a lot of people have techniques that they'll go through. Sometimes maybe they will sing the scales. They'll go, oh, and they'll go as high as they can, and then they'll go back down to sort of warm up in that sense. I know some people who will sometimes they'll get a straw, particularly a metal straw, and they will get just like a glass of water, and they'll put the straw in there, and they'll just blow, and they'll just go like, and that's another way that they'll sort of warm up their muscles in their throat as well. There's a few different ways. Another one I'll give that people like to do to work on their enunciation to make sure their words don't sound all sloppy and all that. They will take a cork and they will put the cork between their teeth, and they will just read through some sentences, read through some lines that way. And that kind of gets their mouth all like, oh, this is weird. Now I have to work extra hard to make everything sound good. And then once you remove the cork, your muscles are like, okay, well, now we had to work overtime to get all warmed up. Now we're really ready to go now that you don't have that in your mouth anymore. And if they don't have a cork, they might just use their thumb. But there's a few ways that I don't use, but they work for a lot of people. There you go.
Nice. Oh, okay. Here is the next question in the chat that I see from Dullius the Wolf. Question: did you ever get the chance to visit one of the sets for Sonic the Hedgehog 2 when it was being filmed in Vancouver and Fort Langley?
Okay, I've got a fun answer for that. And also, wolves are cool. I have never visited a movie set in my life, but here's the funny thing. When I was watching the Sonic 2 movie, I was watching it on demand. I was watching a digital version of it legally. I'm that guy, always, always. I kept pausing because during that beginning scene with the bank heist and the car chase and everything, I'm like, I've walked down that street a billion times. That's the bank I go to. I've been to that bank. I know that street. I know that street. I specifically recognize, especially because of the name. You don't forget a name like Pender Street. Yeah, I definitely had fun just pointing out all these different areas that I recognize. But as far as going to a movie set, I wish, but I would love that. If anybody who works on those movies is watching, I would really love that. Just saying.
Ooh. All right, I see another question in the chat by JadenMan89. Have you been a fan of the Sonic series prior to Sonic Prime? How did it
Ooh.
feel having to get the privilege to voice an iconic character that you've been a fan of for years?
Very, very good question, Jaden. And to answer that, so I have been kind of in and out of the Sonic fandom at various points in my life, but I definitely grew up watching the original Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon with Jaleel White. That show was like, I wanted to be that dude. I wanted to be that guy. I never owned a Sega system growing up, but I was always kind of like that kid looking over the fence at the cool party that I'm not a part of. Even though I like Nintendo, but just Sega seemed like that's where it was really happening. So again, never really had the games. The first time I played a Sonic game was at a video store. They had a kiosk where they had Sonic 3 and Knuckles set up. And I know it was that one because I specifically remember the song that stayed in my head. That was just with me forever. So that was my first experience. But when I would say I kind of really got back into it again for a while was when finally on a Nintendo system we had Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. And I rented that from the video store, played the living daylights out of it, had the greatest time, thought that it was so cool. And then I didn't get to beat the game in time and took it back to the video store. And throughout my life, I have played a few Sonic games here and there, but I had never actually beaten one until I actually got back into the franchise. When I was cast as Sonic, I'm like, you know what? Why don't I actually try to beat some of these games now? And so I got much more into the story and everything again at that point. Frontiers ended up being the first Sonic game I ever beat. To answer the second part of your question about how did it feel getting cast as the character, horrifying, because I know that there are many, many expectations of many, many fans about how Sonic should be, and I really wanted to live up to that as best as I could, but still knowing that I could not please everybody. And the shy kid in me, the shyest kid in school in me, deep down, was like, I don't know if I can handle all this focus and all of this attention. But fortunately, I had about almost 2 years between me recording my first episode and the show actually airing on Netflix. So that was a lot of time for me to prepare emotionally for all of the attention I was about to get. But at the same time, I had numerous times while I was recording where I'm like, this is my life. I grew up looking up to this character and now I get to voice him. What is happening? So you kind of never really know what's going to happen. Life is full of surprises like that. Very long-winded answer, but wonderful question. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, like I know you probably get this a lot, but like your voice of Sonic literally sounds like a mixture of like the previous Sonic's Sonic VAs.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that because, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of influence there. And it's not like I was really going heavily for one in particular, but I've heard different ones throughout my life playing various games. And I tried to pay little tributes where I could here and there. But like I mentioned before, a major influence on me still was actually Beautiful Joe. And that really sort of cocky attitude that he's got, but ton of influences, and I'm glad that people can't even make up their mind on which one is the most like me. That's if anything, that's a win in my book. A lot of it is me doing my thing, but also just little bits that I try to pay homage to here and there.
I really love that you do that because I know I talk to my friends about this. It's like it sounds like he's doing tribute to the previous Sonic beings. And
Every now and then, there's definitely a line that comes up where I'm like, that reminds me of this thing. I'm gonna do that and see if they let me. And every now and then it works out. Especially anytime I say chili dogs, I try to throw a little bit of Jaleel in there so you get a little more chili dogs every time I can to find the middle ground where it's a little bit of that, but still a little bit more of the modern style chili dogs, a little bit.
because you did such a phenomenal job. Like I can hear a bit of like Jaleel, I can hear a bit of Ryan Drummond, I can hear Jason Griffith. Like you captured the essence of Sonic and paying tribute to all of the previous Sonic VAs who have
Mhm.
voiced this character for like so many years now. And I love that you do that and they actually allow you to do that for Sonic Prime.
Yeah, I was very grateful in that regard. I've got a wonderful director that I work with, James Corrigal, who I also work with on Ninjago, and he is something of a nerd himself. So he knows every now and then I do something, and he's like, "I see what you did there," and I'm very very grateful for that.
Awesome. Oh, and I see another question from Kevin. My next question is, what was it like to record for Sonic Prime? Did everyone record together or separately?
Oh, all right, here we go. I've got a really, really fun answer for this. I got a little bit of a story to tell. So, because it was in the midst of COVID lockdown time, I'm going to say I first started recording around January of 2021, roughly, is when I did my first recording session. So they were very, very keen on nobody is in the studio at the same time as other actors. We got to disinfect and wipe everything before the next person comes in, all that stuff. So everybody at home, no, only me at home actually, and everybody else in studio in Vancouver, and I'm on the East Coast in Mississauga. So that's the way it was for a good long while. And then there was one episode, and only one that I got to record at the same time as Ian Hanlin, who voices Shadow, and it was a blast. That was far and away the most fun recording session. So I'll give y'all a brief story on what went down, and it pertains to what I'm wearing right now. So I am a big Golden State Warriors basketball guy. Stephen Curry is basically out there carrying on my dream, and we played together in grade 8. We went to the same school. That's why he's my guy, always will be. And so it's a well-known thing that that's my basketball team, while pretty much everybody else in the country cheers for the Toronto Raptors. I don't, because I don't know them and they don't know me. So one day, the Raptors were playing against my Golden State Warriors, and my Warriors were absolutely beating them up. Then I get a random text on my phone saying, I hate the way this basketball game is going. This is the worst. And I think I'm going to take my frustrations out on a certain hedgehog by making sure he has a very, very large line count of screams tomorrow. And I'm just like, wait a minute, this is the voice director. He has my phone number? Okay. And I'm like, well, honestly, screaming is kind of fun for me, James. If you really, really want to punish me, then don't let me record tomorrow's episode at the same time as Ian Hanlin as Shadow. And he's like, oh, I haven't even read the entire script yet. Is it going to be just Sonic and Shadow? Let me see if I can change the schedule and maybe we can get you at the same time, because I'm at home on Zoom and Ian is in the studio. So there is no COVID cross contamination sort of worry. We can actually do that. So basically, he did a lot of rescheduling, set things up, got Ian to come in at 9 a.m. his time instead of noon. So he had to wake up a whole lot earlier to get to the studio. But it all worked out. And episode 1 of the second batch of releases, Avoid the Void, that is the episode where it was Sonic and Shadow recording at the same time, reacting directly to each other, and our chemistry was really just on a next level for that one. So thank you so much, James, Ian, being good sports about that, and thank you so much, Stephen Curry, for beating up on the Raptors. Otherwise, that never would have happened. And I look forward to telling him that story someday. I haven't gotten to tell him that yet.
Wow, that's so interesting. So basically, the season 2, episode 1, where that was an actual genuine that both you and Ian actually recorded that together. That's great.
Mm-hmm. There
That's
were
that's great.
definitely numerous times in the script where I kind of looked at it and looked at him at Zoom, and we're like, okay, I think we both know what the fans are gonna want out of this. Let's have some fun with it, and we definitely had some fun in that regard.
Yeah, like you and Ian did such a phenomenal job in that scene. Like it really sets up like um where it starts to build on Sonic's character,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like Shadow's like you need to see what you did. This is you caused this entire thing to happen in the first place. And
Absolutely.
and
A-
it go
And
ahead.
as much as I, or at least Sonic, likes to rag on Shadow. Yeah, you keep talking, Darky Mick Black Skates, or whatever he'll call him. I feel like Ian brought so much to that character, brought so much depth to him. Where again, Sonic may rag on him for being emo or whatever, but you kind of like feel not just the hurt within him and the frustration, but also the genuine passion and care. And that just speaks so much to not just Shadow as a character, but what Ian brought to that performance. I cannot say enough good about that guy, not just as a talent, but also as a human being. First time I went to Vancouver, Ian was so nice to me. We didn't really know each other, but and this was long before we were working on Sonic. But again, total sweetheart, deserves all the praise in the world, and I'm always, always honored to get to share a show with him.
Wow, that's a great story. Like you both of you carried that scene so well. Like
Mhm.
I remember when we actually showed when we premiered season 2 for in Sonic Revolution Discord server, like I think the audience was just pretty much having all this positive like feedback. Like, I love the setup of this. It's like, and now we get to hear that you and Ian actually recorded that scene.
Hmm.
That's just, it makes it more genuine and sincere. Like, because I know usually when usually you guys don't usually record together.
Yeah, at least in the COVID era. I mean, if this had been done in prior to 2020, then we absolutely would have been in the same booth recording together, pretty much the whole cast. That's how previous shows I've done in Ninjago have been recorded. Previous shows I've done in Vancouver, like Ninjago, have been recorded. But yeah, we kind of entered a different era, but it all just kind of the stars aligned in that particular moment, and I'm glad it worked out.
That's amazing. All right, I see a question from Arena Rooney. Firstly, Sonic Prime was the first time I heard your performance, and you were incredible. I look forward to more. My question: if Chaos Sonic had returned, how would you want him to interact with Shadow?
Oh boy. If Chaos Sonic had returned, I want to keep him the heck away from Shadow because I don't think that it would go very well for Chaos Sonic. Um, yeah, Shadow's a boss. What more can I say? Shadow would be a problem. I've been very, very vocal about what I would want to see more than anything if Chaos Sonic did come back and why I think it would happen. I really, really love the idea of Nine is going to miss Sonic a lot. He's definitely going to miss Sonic a lot. And I feel like he's going to be all alone because none of the other rebels are going to trust him. He's just going to be doing his thing and definitely very lonely. If by some crazy reason he happened to come across just some parts in a scrapyard and is like, hey, I remember this guy. I wonder if I can rebuild him to be my companion and protector and less world destroyee of me and my friends. I could see that happening. I could see that happening. So I don't have it much for Chaos Sonic meeting Shadow, but Chaos Sonic meeting Nine and Nine wanting to reprogram him and fix him, I could definitely see it.
Oh, interesting.
But if he meets Shadow, he's going right back to the scrapyard very quick. I could see that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So,
something I can imagine too.
I'd rather not see that guy. I'd rather not see Emo McDarkskates anytime soon.
Oh, okay. Here is another question from the chat by Madeline Blue Star. My question for Devin: if you and the rest of the Prime cast are brought back for another piece of media that focuses on the main Sonic cast, what would you like to see in it? Ooh.
Okay. Well, all right. If we're talking just the main Sonic cast, so we're gonna step away from the Prime stuff. I want to see more Tails at the forefront. Tails is my favorite character, has been for a very, very long time. My favorite character has varied over the years, but it's consistently been Tails over the last few years. And something that I liked about Frontiers is we kind of touched upon that aspect of Tails feeling like he's not really living up to what he could be, what he should be, wanting to get out of Sonic's shadow in a sense. So that's what I would really like to see. Just a little bit more focus on his growth and coming into his own and his ability to be a leader, which I think he has.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I know some people were kind of like, how come we didn't get to spend time with the main cast, in Prime? It's
Hmm.
like, but the main point of it is that Sonic meets up with like, alternate universes of his friends.
Absolutely.
So I know lots of people were kind of like, and I'm like, but that's the whole point. We're not supposed to spend time with the main Sonic cast that we've known and loved.
It was meant to be that kind of shake up on the typical formula and put us in some different worlds and have Sonic see somebody be like, "Hey, you remind me of them, but you're not them. This is weird," and how he got challenged in that way. So, as much as I would love to get to see like another show that tells a story in that kind of regular universe that we're accustomed to, that's something that a lot of games have explored and will continue to explore. So we got to see something totally different here with Prime.
Hmm. Like for sure, because it's very prominent, like especially when it came to Amy, from what I've noticed. Like every time he runs into a different version of Amy, like he does
Hmm.
it like no matter who it is, like no matter if it's a different version of her, he just can't hurt her. He's
Yeah.
like he just keeps seeing Amy. He's like, even though they all have like different names, he's like, it's like I like especially with like I think it was like Thorn Rose, like
Hmm.
and he tried to run at her, and then he's like, and then he just gets a glimpse of Amy, and he's like, oh
That's
no,
right.
wait, I can't hurt her. So like I kind of like that
That's
aspect because it's like he sees his all he sees is just his like the one that he knows very well. And it's like, oh no, wait, you're not them.
exactly. He's got the toughest time getting over the fact that just because they look the same, it doesn't mean they're the same and they've had the same life experiences shaping them. And that's something that was always very interesting to me about the story that was told.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We'll go back to another one of my questions. This is my next question for you, Devin. What do you think is the most challenging for you when it comes to recording or voice acting in general?
Okay, let me try to give a good answer to this because it's pretty rare that I find something that is challenging for me just because I have spent so many time just studying and practicing in so many different styles. It's hard to throw me for a loop in a sense. Um, so what I will instead say is this: where I find much more of a challenge is on the coaching and the directing side of things, which is where I've been very focused in more recent years in the latter half of my career. And as a director, I'm oftentimes working with people who are brand new or are playing character types they've never played before, or sometimes kids as young as like 5 6 years old I've worked with as a director. So I would look at a line that's really easy for me to deliver, but they haven't gone through the same sort of life experiences or studied the same sort of things. They wouldn't know how to make this line sound real and relatable to them. So then I get the unique challenge of, okay, what is it that I need to tell this person as a director to help them get into this character's mindset, to help them make it make sense to them? And it's a unique kind of puzzle solving and a challenge that really does appeal to me because it's always different with every person that you're working with, regardless of their age. So that's something that I find kind of more interesting. Like, what do I need to tell somebody to help them the unlock the right sort of emotion and everything? And in one case, I had to get a kid to help him be more hyped up. I told him like, "Hey, do you watch Power Rangers? Pretend to be a Power Ranger right now, and you're doing your whole morphin thing, even though this isn't a Power Rangers show. Bring me that energy." And suddenly, now they just sound all kinds of cool and awesome. I've gotten people to pretend to be Vin Diesel and see what kind of coolness that unlocks in them. So that's what kind of more appeals to me. Finding ways that I can help actors relate to the material by finding a topic that is relatable to them.
Wow, that's an interesting way to go about it, especially if you're like um helping people try to find a voice for characters. That's very
Mhm.
inspirational, Devin.
Thank you so much. Yeah, what a lot of people will do, and I've never been a fan of this. There are some directors, and sometimes you have to do it when you're in a hurry. You basically just turn the other actor, especially if they're kids, you turn them into a parrot. Like, say the line like this, say the line like this. Like they just get them to just repeat everything you do, and I'm like, that's I get that for efficiency's sake, but there's no creative back and forth and play in that. So anything I can do to help guide them there, but still they're making their own decisions, that's always something that appeals to me because they're learning something through that process.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to go about it. It's like it's a skill that, it's a very good skill to teach like
Mhm.
voice actors that like just give them the little push, like just give them like a prompt of like, "Hey, have you seen this before when you were a kid? Try to
Mhm.
tap into that outlet and see if you can come up with a voice for that." That's so clever, Devin.
Absolutely.
Very
Thank you so much. Yeah, a lot of acting just really comes down to, and this is why acting generally does get easier as you get older because you have more life experience. So there's going to be moments where I'll be reading something and like Sonic will go through this, and I'll be like, okay, well, I've never been blasted with some super powerful ray before, but I do know what it's like to be very, very sick or to be very, very tired. So I'll remember the way that I sounded when I went through those life events, or maybe I had some emotional conversation with somebody. A lot of, you know what, a perfect example actually. Um, I have a lot of friends and students who deal with a lot of depression and have maybe really had some tough times and they are in need of a pep talk. And when I'm in those moments with them and I can tell they're really sad, that's when I'll kind of start talking to them a whole lot more like this. And I'll say, hey, you can get through this. I really believe in you and you deserve to have more confidence in yourself. And so when we've got those moments with Sonic and Nine, that's immediately where my mind is going. It's that life experience that I'm drawing upon. And when you can help people find that in themselves, as opposed to just making them repeat you like a parrot, it builds
good.
confidence in those performers as well. So that's what I'm all about. Everything is a long winded answer with me, but thank you for that question.
That's so inspirational though, because you are like you you tackle this very differently from other voice directors where you're like, it's like instead of doing the typical, parrot repeat, you actually give them encouragement and just that's just very amazing because it's the first time I've heard heard someone actually do some like this type of method. That's great.
Thanks so much. And I won't say that every voice director does the parrot thing. There are some who do, and sometimes you just have to for time. If you've got so many lines to do and only 10 minutes to do them, sometimes just gotta go. If the person's not understanding it, gotta go fast. But it's always like a last resort, is how I feel it should be used.
Very interesting. Oh, okay. I see another question by David Zengi. How was it like doing anime such as Bakugan or Beyblade?
Very, very interesting. I will say kind of a challenge because there are limitations when you're doing anime. Now, a lot of times when you're doing a cartoon, something where the animation is done after the voices are recorded, you don't know where your character is standing. You don't know what their facial expressions might be. You might not even have any idea what they're going to look like until the show is done. But in the case of anime, you've already got all the characters, the visuals is all locked, the mouth movements are locked. So you gotta hope that you've got a really, really good script. If your character is kind of talking, if their mouth is moving like this in the Japanese original, they're going like this, you do not want to have like 20 seconds worth of lines to fit in 10 seconds of mouth movement. Otherwise, your character's gonna have to talk like this really, really fast to make sure all the words get in. And that shouldn't happen. And sometimes I get scripts where that happens. But very fortunately, in the case of Bakugan and in the case of Beyblade before that, I really wanted to make sure that my characters talked like a people. So I would oftentimes look at the script and I'd look at the episodes in Japanese. I'd look them up online and I'd be like, oh, these lines in English don't fit. I'm going to rewrite this. Also, human beings don't use words like that. So I'm going to also have them use words that an actual teenager would use. A lot of stuff like that. I've fortunately been able to work into those shows to make the characters just seem more genuine. But again, it all really is a delicate balance of good writing and good voice direction and an actor trying their best to make it all work. But if you don't have the writing, you can't make the performance work.
Yeah, that's something I agree with. Yeah, if you don't have the writing, you just can't make it work.
Mm-hmm.
You just summed it up very well.
You do the best you can, and some people are so good that they make a performance sound natural, or at least as close to natural as possible despite the writing, but you always want to hope for the best writing that you can get,
Hmm.
or the freedom to write your own stuff like I was fortunately given on those shows.
Mm. Okay, so I see another question from Dolius the Wolf. Question: how did you feel when Teletoon was pretty much absorbed by Cartoon Network and became Cartoon Network Canada?
Oh, that hurt. It was so unceremonious. They didn't even have like any sort of like special like goodbye to Teletoon. For those of you who don't know, Teletoon is essentially Canada's equivalent to Cartoon Network. They aired many of the same shows, but sometimes many of not the same shows. And yeah, just one day they're just like, we're rebranding. It's over. Everything that you've grown up with, the Teletoon, it's unreal. All the catchphrases, so it's all gone. And I'm like, okay, cool. I wish we could have had both, because I didn't grow up having Cartoon Network, the like Cartoon Fridays and all these things. I would hear about them from my cousin in Baltimore, but I never got to experience it. I had my own different shows. I wish we had it all, but now it's a rebrand. But the shows are still mostly the same. That's the weird thing. Yeah, it was weird. It kind of felt like a part of my childhood was dying, but so it goes sometimes.
Hmm.
Everything changes.
Hmm. For sure. I see another question from Sally Hedgehog. My question for Devin is, if they would have continued for the next season, I guess for season 4 for Angry Birds Summer Madness,
Hmm. Oh.
I guess that's the question. I
Oh,
don't,
okay.
the way the question was worded was a little weird. Like, uh, kind of sounds like
um
broken English.
All right. I do know English is not their first language, so yeah,
Mhm,
it might have been a struggle for them to convey what they wanted to. But I
mhm.
that is a show I had a great time working on. Once again, one that I just recorded right here in my bedroom closet. And I voiced Chuck on that one, the yellow bird. That a lot of people thought that my voice for Chuck was going to be my voice for Sonic, and I'm just like, don't y'all are silly. I can do different voices, but in the case of that one, and it was also Ian Hanlin being my co-star on that one as well because he voiced Red on that show. So
Oh.
I don't really know too much about the lore and everything of Angry Birds. I have not really played the game. I've never seen the movies, but I again had a great time working on it. So I don't know what I would really suggest for them story-wise, but I would love the opportunity on that show if we did more to get to record at the same time of my castmates. That's another one that was during the peak COVID era of 2020. So I didn't get to hear what pretty much anybody else sounded like until the show was done and out there on Netflix. So that's the only thing that I would love to see change if we got to do more.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. I see another question in the chat by Rain Boom Blitz. Question for Devin. Do you have a favorite character you voiced in it could be in anything you voiced, and which character is your most favorite that you voiced?
Okay. I feel like some people already know where I'm gonna go, and I feel like a lot of people are expecting it to be Sonic. which, as much as I love Sonic, he's not my number one guy because Sonic is a character as much as I love him and I love getting to perform him. He's not a character that I defined. There were so many amazing performances that came before mine, and everybody kind of has their favorite. And I had to try my best to fit in what was the expectation of who he should be. But a character that I absolutely adore and that is very, very precious to me is somebody named Raccoon from the Terrain of Magical Expertise. This was a web series that I voiced for in 2011, and a character that I still write for and work on performing to this day. And the longest story short, he, for me, is my Team Rocket in a sense. A goofy villain who was only supposed to be in just one episode, just showing up and just being a jerk and gets defeated and never comes back. But people liked him so much that he just kept getting brought back. And I'm just like, all right, I feel like I'm going to take some creative liberties here because this was my agreement to take all on the role in the first place because I'd retired from doing Newgrounds and web stuff. So part of my agreement to do it was that I could have creative liberties and change the scripts. So I said, I'm going to just quietly just sneak in this old storyline for him where he's going to shift from being a bad person to the worst person and then realizing that he's the worst person and then course correcting and trying to be better because that's the storyline I always wanted to see happen for Team Rocket. So I got to have that play out with this character, and again, 13 years later, he's still very near and dear to my heart. So that's my guy. There's a lot of characters that I love very much, but he's very special because I really got to make him who he was.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting answer.
That's why those of y'all, if you ever see me have raccoon imagery on a lot of my tweets or my necklace, although I'm wearing the Sonic one this time, it's all because of that precious baby.
Nice. Ooh, okay. I see another question in the chat by Cinder Cartoon Studios. What's Sonic's best move in the Sonic Prime TV show?
Oh, okay. Well, I know he's very reliant on spin dash, yo, but I feel like that's a very simple one to go to. Um, oh man. I don't know if I would call this a move per se, but everything about where he kind of went into prismatic mode and we kind of had all those that episode where we had all those just sort of multiple Sonics kind of just all running around and going into these like different sort of kind of personalities and sounds for each one. That is a favorite moment of mine, culminating in him going to that epic prismatic style where he didn't say a single word. Uh, but definitely that's a standout thing for me. But if I have to go with move, it's just the good old basic spin dash, gets the job done, bashes some bots.
Yeah, like I remember like Sonic had his work cut out for him when he had to face Chaos Sonic.
Oh yeah, now he had those good moves. That thing where he kind of was like upside down on his head and then he was just able to make his feet spin around like a fan. Like, yo, Chaos Sonic, that's he got it happening. In fact, I got the figure right here. When he was down, he was just like his legs were just going all around. I'm like, I love that. I love that. I love that.
like uh, like you could tell like Sonic had to really think hard because it's like, oh man, this guy
Mhm.
can predict my moves. Like he knows how to like stop like the moves that I usually use. So he had to really think out of the box.
Oh yeah, and again, that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. When his back is up against the wall, he's really challenged. He's really frustrating because now he's got somebody throwing witty remarks at him, which he's really not used to. I loved everything about that episode. Of the Again, I have two favorite episodes to record for. It was the Avoid the Void one with Ian Hanlin as Shadow, and then Double Trouble with Chaos Sonic. and many people would not expect this. I recorded Chaos Sonic several months after I had recorded Sonic for that same episode. So I couldn't even remember a lot of the Sonic lines that I was playing off of. I couldn't remember how I delivered them because I had to audition for Chaos Sonic. They didn't even know immediately if they were going to have me play that role. But I'm glad they did.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. I see two similar questions, so I'll read them as one, and they're from Chaotic Emerald and Sally Hedgehog. So they're both basically asking what is your favorite Canadian cartoon, and to add on to that question is like basically a cartoon show that you grew up with when you were a kid.
Okay. Then I'm very glad that was asked because I can bring it back around to Samurai Pizza Cats. Oh, yeah. The show that really started it all for me. This was technically it's an anime, but it's kind of like the very, very first abridged series. It was dubbed in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the place where they mostly speak in French, but they can speak in English too when they really want to. And again, the voice talent there was phenomenal. They essentially made that show, and the writer as well, Tim Reed, they and also Tony Oliver, who was one of the head adapters for Power Rangers at Saban. They dubbed that show almost like the original abridged series. They practically just watched it on mute and made up whatever they wanted. So you've got like jokes about like Disney, jokes about like Star Wars and politics and it is just it's incredible. It's all of the characters kind of act like they know they're in a cartoon and they're actors and they don't want to be there and they'd rather be working on the new Bugs Bunny show. That's the kind of stuff that they put into the dialogue, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is so my energy. It's kind of like if they dubbed something and turned it into it's kind of like if they dubbed a sort of ninja kind of action sort of goofy show and turned it into Animaniacs. That's what it felt like to me. So that's one. Another one that I'm going to put right up there, actually two that I'm going to put right next to each other, are Reboot and Beast Wars, which were two of the first 3D animated shows to ever be made. In fact, I think Reboot was the very, very first one. And growing up, I wanted to be the main character from Beast Wars. Or no, sorry, the main character from Reboot, Bob, just the coolest guy ever. And yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. If you're not familiar with those shows, please do look them up because they still hold up today if you watch certain episodes because they were figuring out 3D animation technology while they made those shows. But as they got further along, still looks great to this day.
Nice. Yeah, I know we actually have shown Reboot in Sonic Revolution's cartoon nights
Right.
actually. So we have shown it a few times. Very
Very,
interesting
very
show.
cool. And
Yeah.
there's a documentary about that show and the creation of it that is about to come out. So look up Reboot Rewind if you're curious to learn more about that and the story behind it.
Interesting. All right. Oh yeah. I remember I had this question for you that I remember I told you I was going to ask you
All
now.
right, let's go. Let's bring it.
Okay. I am curious if you did visit the Sonic Speed Cafe during San Diego Comic-Con 2024. If you did, which menu item did you try?
Yes, actually, this was so amazing how it worked out. So, for those of you who do not know, when I was getting ready to leave San Diego Comic Con, because I was invited to be there on behalf of the Lego company for their Ninjago events. And Saturday was my last day there. As I was getting to ready to leave, is when I ran into Leah, and that's how we were able to set up this whole thing. So perfect timing. And then the last thing that I did before I went to the airport was I took the 15-minute walk to go see the Sonic Speed Cafe. And then I immediately realized it's going to be a 4-hour line and my flight is in 4 hours. This is bad. So I decided to do something that I don't do very often. And I used my blue privilege. So I walked up to the guy at the door, the security guy, and I'm just like, yeah, excuse me, kind sir. Do you think that a certain humble hedgehog could take a look inside your fine establishment before he has to return home to Green Hill Zone? That will maybe not necessarily his home, but a place that I go to very often. So homie was like, "Oh, dude, are you like one of the voice actors? Sure, yeah, come right in." And I was like, I was so sorry to all the people in the line. I'm sure a bunch of them were like, "Who is that guy? Why is he? How dare!" And they threw their top hats and monocles on the ground. No, I don't know why I did that voice. But yeah, they were very cool about that. A couple people did recognize me, and in those cases, I was more than happy to take pictures with them and all that. But yeah, I got to check it out. It was really really surreal, really really cool setup they had there with like the rings hanging from the ceiling and the gotta go fast food. I thought that was brilliant, and I was given a free vegetarian, because I'm vegetarian-ish at times, a vegetarian chili dog, because you got to have a chili dog, and I'm so glad that they had that option. And it was fantastic. What can I say? It delivered. It lived up to my expectations, and I still have the box. I still have the soda container that they gave me, because just an amazing memento of getting to go there. So, yo, shout out to everybody who made that happen. Everybody working on the Speed Cafe, and the very very nice man who let me into his fine establishment.
That is great. Like, I love that they do give the vegetarian option because I know when they first revealed that, I'm like, that's
Mhm.
so generous because
Yeah,
other places don't accommodate to like, if accommodate people who are vegetarians. So that's really
exactly.
great that they do that. Like, I was pretty surprised.
Yeah,
It's-
me too. Definitely going in, I was prepared. I'm just like, okay, am I gonna have to break from my thing for a little while? Because every now and then I do. Every now and then I'm just like, I like meat too much. But I hadn't had it in several months, so I was hoping to not have to, and I was able to maintain that. So kudos for them being considerate like that.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And to add on to that question, if you were to suggest a Sonic Speed Cafe menu item, which character would it be and what type of food would it be?
Oh, wow. Oh, where do we go with this? Um, You know what? I kind of, as I said, I do kind of like to stay on the healthy side, and one of my favorite things is fruit smoothies. But I feel like, and I think that Tails would enjoy this because I'm always looking out for my boy. How about a mint smoothie? A fruit smoothie that's got some mint flavor in it. I would be down with that because I have had one before and it was wonderful. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure where else we could go. I mean, there's lots of wonderful things in the Sonic cookbook, which I do own. There's a nice recipe for chili in there. There's a charmy bread that has honey in it, which is wonderful. So I feel like you could just go through the Sonic cookbook and take your pick. But they had the most important things. They had the chili dogs, they had the onion rings, and they did a great job there.
For sure. Like, I'm pretty sure you noticed. Did you notice the Year of Shadow decor in there?
Oh gosh, I didn't. I actually didn't notice that because I don't know why. I guess it's just the inner Sonic side in me. When I just see Shadow, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I'm better. So maybe it was a little bit of that. But seeing as how some of you might know how a certain discussion with Izuka-san went down recently. And it was recently revealed. It was recently revealed that Shadow loves broccoli. It's his absolute favorite thing. So maybe they could introduce some Shadow themed broccoli. It's just broccoli that is burnt to a crisp, so it is devoid of all flavor and personality. That would just be right in line with Shadow. Yes. So let's do that in his honor. That's my answer to the question now. I've got it. Perfect.
Very interesting.
I'm just kidding. I like Shadow. I like Shadow. But the Sonic in me just says like, let's troll. We gotta troll him. We have to. It's the only right thing to do.
Oh, okay. I see another question from David Zenge. Speaking of the Sonic Prime audition, did you also audition for Orbot and Cubot?
Um, hey, here's a funny thing. No, because I was trying not to get those roles, which has happened to me before. I'm just like, I'm working enough. Let's let somebody else have that. The way that all kind of played out, though, before I was officially cast in the role of Sonic for Sonic Prime, they had me brought on to do, and I was still being considered. I was still like in their top three, if not top two. What they will do sometimes is they will make what is called a scratch track of audio, whereas they will have audio recorded that they don't intend to keep for the final product, but they will use it so they can kind of start doing some storyboards and maybe start doing some rough animation and start to time out how long the full episode is going to be with all the lines recorded. So I was cast to do the scratch track of all of the male characters, as well as Kazumi Evans doing all of the female characters. And throughout the scratch track process, I guess they really liked what I did for Orbot and Cubot. So when they actually did the full-on auditions for Orbot and Cubot, which I did not read, they cast me anyways because they're like, we're counting what you did during the scratch track as an audition. We like it more than any of the auditions. Here you go. And I'm like, okay, thank you. So that's how that one went. But again, really fun characters. I do love their dynamic. Should be obvious that I'm a huge fan of Scratch and Grounder. Oh, we're the best. At least we try to be. I love those characters. So Orbot and Cubot kind of continuing on that sort of style, that legacy. I do still enjoy them a whole lot.
Yeah, that's so interesting. They're just like, uh, 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 it's pretty much, yeah, we don't like the other auditions. Yours was great.
And also, you're already here, so you know why not. And there are budgetary reasons as well. I'm like, I might not have been the absolute best. This is the way it works sometimes. But when it comes to casting for shows, at least under ACTRA, if somebody is voicing an additional character, then they get an additional 50% added on to their pay for each additional character. So they would also have saved money as opposed to getting an entirely new person to play those characters.
Very interesting to know.
So being versatile, being able to play multiple roles is handy because it does save the production money.
That's understandable, actually. Ooh, okay. I see another question from Kevin. Another question for Devin. Was there anything that didn't make it into the final show that you and the rest of the cast was hoping for Sonic Prime?
Okay. I'm gonna. I don't know if I can openly say this, but I know that there was definitely during that very last episode, there was I know exactly what was gonna be there. when, when everybody says there was this huge cliffhanger, the cliffhanger that we have right now is just more to imply it's, just Sonic's off on his next adventure and whatever, just kind of an open-ended thing. What we saw could very easily just be another giant Dr. Eggman robot. But previously, somebody showed up, and I'm not gonna say who because I don't think I can. But that's I'll leave it at that. One more thing though, I think that I think will be easier for me to say is there was a moment during the last episode. I don't remember what he said, but uh, Dr. Babel, the baby of the Chaos Council, he's in his last moment of frustration of defeat, he was actually going to blurt out some human English words. I don't remember what it was, but he was gonna say something, and hopefully someday maybe there will be more, or maybe that story will be told by Vincent Tong and he can say what it was. But I would have loved to see that make the final cut.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, unfortunately I have to be careful about what I share when it comes to that because I don't know who might be watching, and perhaps I've already said too much, but I feel like I've been on the safe side thus far.
Okay. Here is another question I see in the chat by SB Zeal. Question for you, Devin. Have you ever used one of your character voices to cheer up a fan or just make anyone's day? Interesting question.
Oh, okay. Now, I can't do this very, very easily oftentimes on streams when people will ask me to, because I know some companies can be very, very protective of their characters, and so they can sometimes not be cool with people saying things in a character voice where they'll be like, "Hey, we don't legally approve of our character saying that." So I'll be very careful about when and where I'll do that. But there have definitely been instances, going back to the voice direction side of things. There have been some instances where I've been working with some kids and maybe they had like a really bad day at school or something that was really, really upsetting them. And I'll just I'll literally, I picked up this particular Sonic plushie and I was like, "Hey, Elijah, how's it going? I'm going to be working with you today." And just holding him in front of my face. And the 6-year-old kid immediately was just locked on Sonic as his voice director. And he's like, "Okay, all right, yeah, let's do it, let's go." And so the fact that I can help brighten somebody's day with these characters, it does mean a lot to me because I know how much that would have meant to me as a little kid. And in some instances, when Sonic is not around, sometimes that character I mentioned previously, Raccoon, will come on screen in his actual digital live action cartoon form, which he's able to do. Sometimes he will come on screen and replace me as the voice director as well, because he is actually a living, breathing actual Toon who is able to appear like that. So yes, every now and then my characters can help people in that way.
Oh, that's adorable. That's adorable.
Yeah, really one of the most meaningful things to me, if not the most meaningful thing to me in all of this, is just being able to help brighten somebody's day, and especially when I'm working with the kids like that who've gone through like bullying and a lot of tough things that I can relate to. So the tiniest little effort from those characters, the fact that it can help them, is very special to me.
Nice. All right, I see a question in the chat by Princess Hamster 507. Since you're a part of the Sonic legacy now, do you have a Sonic OC? Please, I'm eager to know.
All right. So what? It's funny you say that because I don't, at least not of my own creation, and that's a question that I've been asked a few times. the closest thing that I've had to an OC for the longest time is Rocky Raccoon, but he was essentially created by somebody else and then essentially given to me and became mine. But I was asked the question during one of my live streams on Twitch. I had a wonderful fan artist by the name of Samara Arscott, and she asked me, "Hey, if you were in the Sonic world, what sort of animal would you be?" And I was like, I don't know. I was stuck for a good while, and I tried to think of an animal that doesn't really have a major character in the Sonic realm. And then so I was like, I know, a cat. Wait, no, they have that. Oh, wait, I change voices all the time, like chameleon. There's no chameleon. Oh, wait, yes, there is. Oh, I know, crows. Crows are cool. Let's do a crow. And so they made a crow style character for me who was wearing an outfit that I wore for an interview that I'd done that was kind of like this half yellow, half black hoodie and wearing this yellow headband. And they called him Deven the Crow. And I was like, I love the design. He's adorable, but I want to separate him from me a little bit more. So I wouldn't want him to have the exact same name as me. I'd like him to be more of his own distinct thing. So I had another wonderful artist and friend in the chat who goes by Cherina Laferina. And she was like, we came up with the idea of turning him into a raven, which is very similar and related to a crow, looks the same. Deven the Raven. So that is the character to look up if you want to see the Sonic OC who was gifted to me by Samara Arscott. It's Daven, Deven the Raven. That is the fan character, the OC who was made for me, and he is an adorable crow guy who very routinely has a certain raccoon cause difficulty for him in life because that's relatable for me.
Oh, that's interesting. I love that it rhymes too.
Oh yes, that's I live for rhymes and alliteration, so I'm very happy with that. I'll see if I can maybe find a link that I will give to you, Leah, that maybe you can share with the chat.
Oh, of course. I can definitely screen share.
Oh, fantastic. I'm just gonna look for that now. Meanwhile, though, feel free to move on to the next question.
Oh, okay. I see a question from Gokin-san. Hi, Gokin. Question to Deven Mack. What Sonic game introduced you to the Sonic series?
Okay, so for me, the very first Sonic game that I ever played was at the video store. There was a sort of booth kiosk set up with a Sega Genesis, and it was. I only know this now because of the music that embedded in my brain. Da, 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 da. Ba, da, 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 ba, ba, da, 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 da. Mushroom Hill Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. So that was my very first experience. Did not play another Sonic game for several years until Sonic Advance came out on Game Boy Advance. And then I believe the very next year is when Sonic Adventure 2 Battle came out on Nintendo GameCube. So that was my first time playing a console modern Sonic game. Then the first Sonic game I ever beat was Sonic Frontiers.
Nice.
And also, I will link you now because I have found this. Here is a picture of Deven the Raven drawn by Samara Arscott.
All right. Let me go save this image and then I'll do my screen share here so we can actually look at it.
And
Ooh,
if you can, feel free to share that link directly to the chat as well, because I want to get the traffic to Samara because she's awesome and deserves it and takes commissions for all of y'all out there with your Sonic OCs.
All right. It's a very large thing, but I will show it through screen share here. It's a really big image. So hopefully, can you guys see it? There it is.
Hey.
There it is. That is so interesting.
Oh yeah. Again, she did a great job and accidentally made him look like one of my favorite villains from Samurai Pizza Cat's Bad Bird, who is a ninja crow. So it all
Nice.
kind of comes full circle for me. Looking my OC looking like my favorite character from a show that inspired me to become a voice actor in the first place.
This is very phenomenal. Like, I love how they actually gave your OC like dreadlocks.
Yeah.
That's so
Again,
cool.
I totally caught me off guard, but it was an amazing gift, really, really kind thing of Samara to do.
That is so cool.
Mhm. She's
Yeah,
she's
so
super sweet and very talented.
I'll definitely link this in the chat. So let me just stop sharing so that way I can let me go put the link here. There you go. That's the link um actual Devin's OC made by Samara. So so if you guys want to look at it in its all its glory, it's there.
Mhm.
That's very cool. I love it when
Yeah.
people get so creative with it too.
Oh yeah. The talent, the creativity of all the Sonic fans out there. I am just so in awe of that. One of the fun things for me actually was trying to come up with a voice for that character because I don't know, since he is based on me, should he just sound like me or should he have kind of like a squawky bird voice? So what Samara decided is maybe when he gets mad, that's when his bird accent comes out. So I love that. I love that little bit of lore she came up with as well.
Nice. Like, is it kind of like similar to Donald Duck?
A little bit, although much more comprehensible. I can't do a great Donald Duck voice, but when he gets mad, I can barely understand him normally. But when he gets super mad, it's just I don't know. I don't know. But you can still understand Daven when he goes into bird voice.
That is so cool. That's just pretty funny because like whenever I think like where it's kind of hard to tell, I'm like that I all I can think of is Donald Duck.
Mhm.
Like and then and they literally had an episode in the reboot of DuckTales
That's
2017.
right.
And then Donald was saying something, and then other characters are like, "What? Did anyone get any of that?" Like they're so confused. They're just like, and then he had to just then the I guess the scientist dude had to give him like a voice module so they could
Mhm.
actually understand him like speak properly.
I
And they're
remember that, and I think his regular voice was like Don Cheadle, I believe.
yeah, it was.
Which is amazing, and I love that. I love that they have like a storyline reason for why he is like that, and oh, that's so cool. That is a show I need to watch more of. I've heard so many good things.
Mhm. Yeah, and also the fact because I know you actually met Ben Schwartz, and Ben Schwartz actually voices in the reboot of
That
DuckTales.
is right. I keep mixing up which duck is which, but I know he's the blue one because he's always the blue one. Why hasn't he been Mega Man yet? I feel like it's gonna happen. Yeah, Ben Schwartz could not have been kinder. I didn't think that he was going to know who I was. Granted, when I was first announced publicly as Sonic the Hedgehog, he did send a very, very warm, welcoming tweet to me. And again, that was super cool. I went to go see him at a comedy show that he was performing in Toronto. And as soon as he saw me and I introduced myself, he was like, "Yo, oh man, I wish I knew that you were gonna be here." And he gave me this like big hug. And then everybody else all around was like, "Why is Ben Schwartz hugging that guy?" I want a hug too. So that was very funny to me. A lot of people just thought that I'm there just as a fan, as it tends to go. But no, he was super cool. Every single Sonic voice actor I've interacted with thus far has just been incredibly kind. We all have this sort of brotherhood of camaraderie in a sense because we've all gone through a similar experience, and we all have each other's back. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I saw that you posted that you also met Jason Griffith at San Diego Comic-Con.
That is right. Moments before I met you, that was my very, very first time meeting him, interacting with him, and again, just what a cool guy! What a chill guy with cool hair. Even though he said that his hair was a mess, I'm like, I wish a bad hair day for me looked like that. But again, all of them just absolutely wonderful people in every interaction I've gotten to have, and I'm grateful that it worked out like that because I would not have been at Comic Con had it not been for the great people at Lego. So I'm glad that happened and that I got to meet him and got to meet you and Colleen O'Shaughnessy. So shout out to her as
Oh,
well.
oh, I'm truly touched you said that, Devin. Ooh, okay. I see more questions in the chat. Here's the
Okay.
next question by Ryujin Savior underscore X. Question for Devin. Your favorite of the six Ninjago ninjas, original lineup before Eren and Sora.
Whoa. All right. I think I am probably going to go with this has been back and forth, honestly. I think that my favorite is Jay because he makes me laugh. Um, and also, he had this moment that I thought was just so wholesome and adorable when he is just absolutely like geeking out about this old train that he sees in the tunnel. And he's like, oh, I recognize that sort of engine and the wheels and the this, they're made by this manufacturer. And he just knows all the details. And then the other ninja are just like, what are you doing? I'm like, that's a real thing. That's like, you get me talking about the right kind of subject, and I'll turn into that as well. Usually that subject is basketball, but I love that. But I would say the one that I would kind of relate to the most is probably oh, this is tough. Probably Zane. Probably Zane because he is always kind of well, he's a robot. He's an android. He'd have to be. He's very driven by just logic and often the level-headed, reasonable one in every scenario. He's trying to plan things out and make sure things go well. He's not really focused on showing off and being in the center of the spotlight. And that's very much something that I connect to on a personal level. A lot of people don't expect it doing what I do for a living, but I'm a very, very introverted, quiet by nature kind of guy who enjoys nature and the peace of the outdoors and that's my whole vibe. So I'm gonna say Jay and Zane are the ones that are up there for me.
Cool. Oh, okay. Oh, here is another Lego question by SB Zeal. Another question for Devin. I love your performance as Noct from Ninjago Dragons Rising. What was the mindset going into him when you auditioned as him?
Oh, wow. This is another one where I can't even remember if I actually auditioned or not. But it was generally a thing of come across as very, very refined while keeping him away from my previous villain, who was also refined because he was a king. So I had to have this weird challenge of sounding evil and sinister and kind of going into still being in my higher range. I need to keep him away from Aaron's voice, which is right here. So I sort of put a little bit of a going back to that Edwin Tiong, perfect Nazo sort of voice. There's a little bit of that in there. But I also wanted something that was kind of soothing, oddly, creepily comforting, almost like a little bit of a lullaby in there. So that's what makes Nock stand out. It's that calm, collective, but that sinister evil that comes through in that snake-like texture. And I had no idea what he was going to look like until I actually saw the show. But hey, it fit, and I'm glad so many people liked it and didn't think it sounded just like Aaron.
Mm, very interesting. Very interesting. Ooh, okay. Here is my next question for you. How did you tap into the character of Chef Hatchet? Because I know you voice him in Total Drama Rama, and you also recorded for the, I think the, was it Reloaded version of it?
Oh, yes, the reboot. That's
Yeah,
right.
the reboot.
Okay. In the case of Chef Hatchet, this is kind of funny how it came about. So I was not the original voice of Chef Hatchet. That was the very, very talented Clay Bennett, who is also a live action actor, and he's moved down to Hollywood and he's worked on some amazing stuff down there. You know, I know he's been in a Saw movie. He was also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Really, really talented guy. But what they do have is a thing called tax credits that they have not just in Canadian shows, but shows all over the world in various states of the U.S. as well. Whereas if you hire somebody who is living in a certain place, if you hire a certain amount of people, actors and staff live in a certain place, you will save money on the eventual taxes that the production has to pay. So they are incentivized to get people from that place. That is why you have Canadian voice actors in Sonic Prime. It's not because they legally have to, it's because legally they will save more money. Not that the actors are cheaper, but they are incentivized to get people from that place because of the tax returns. So that's why they were looking for a new voice of Chef once they did the Total Drama Rama show and the reboot. And in that case, I definitely wanted to sound like Chef. I wanted to sound like Clay Bennett, but they started writing in the daycare show where Chef runs a daycare. He's a lot nicer than the traditional original Chef, and he's a lot goofier. He has a lot more silly things happen to him where he's the butt of the joke. Instead of the original Chef, which is much more about punishment and scaring the contestants, my chef has a lot more craziness happen all around him. So there's a whole lot more energy coming to that. And that's a voice I was already kind of used to doing because I'm sort of doing an imitation of one of my favorite wrestlers, this guy named Booker T, the 5-time WCW champion. So I take that Booker T voice and just make it even more zany and all over the place. And that's where my Chef Hatchet voice comes from. So few different factors there. We've got Booker T, we've got Clay Bennett's original Chef, and just throw it into a blender of cartoon zaniness. And now you've got the Chef I do for Drama Rama.
I love the like the spinoff is so interesting because I have watched a few episodes for Revo's Cartoon Nights, and it's like this is so interesting. I'm like, I never thought in a million years because I'm so used to Chef Hatchet being that disciplined dude that I saw in Total Drama in the Total Drama main series, and then it's like he's running a daycare now. Whoa,
Yeah.
he's more zany, he's more goofy in this. This is interesting.
So now I have to find a way, and that's the interesting challenge. It's like I have to go with. I know people have their expectations of how Chef should sound, and understandably so. Clay Bennett did an amazing job, but if Clay were doing the Drama Rama show, he would have to change the voice for Chef as well, because for the first time, he actually has to some extent, care about these little kids and try to make sure that nothing really bad happens to them. Maybe he doesn't care that much. Maybe he just wants to keep his job. But either way, there's a different kind of energy that I needed to tap into, and there was never a dull moment in that show. I can say that much. But it was an interesting challenge to have to find that side of the character, but still have him feel kind of, sort of like the same guy as best as I could.
You did a phenomenal job. Like when I hear it, it's like I didn't even realize it was like a different voice actor actually. Like you
Oh,
sounded
thank you
very
so
similar.
much.
You sounded very similar to the previous VA. So like I didn't even notice. And then I know because since we did like Sonic Prime premieres for Rebels Cartoon Nights, they'll always put in the chat, "Hi, Deven Mack." They're like the voice of Prime Sonic.
It's
So
funny how it goes. There's so many people. I'm always amused when that happens. There's so many people though who still don't know, and I will constantly see just every few months somebody makes a new tweet posting a picture of Sonic and Chef and saying, "Did you know they're the same voice actor?" And there's always just a brand new thousands of people going, "What? Huh?" And that's the neat thing about voice acting. You never really know where someone might show up. You could be standing right next to me at a Sonic concert or in the Speed Cafe and have no idea who I am. And there's kind of a bit of a benefit to that at times, being the shy kid that I am.
oh, okay. I see another question in the chat by Sully Hedgehog. My question for Devin is, what's your favorite video game series that you mostly like and enjoy?
Oh, okay. This is a tough one for me to answer because I have favorite series, but I don't enjoy every game in them. One that I enjoy very consistently is the Ace Attorney games. Objection! I haven't beaten all of them yet, but that's one that really resonated with me and made me want to be a lawyer very briefly in the early 2000s. I'm glad I didn't stay that route. Um, and then another favorite of mine, I would probably say my favorite series of all time, just specifically for these three games, is Star Fox series, starting with the original Star Fox on Super Nintendo, and then the unreleased but then eventually released Star Fox 2 on Super Nintendo, and Star Fox 64, which I might go as far as to say is my single favorite game of all time that I didn't work on. And that game was also a major influence for me with my voice acting and the voice of Fox in there, Mike West. I'll do my best. Andros won't have his way with me. Do a barrel roll. I love the voices in that game. They live in my head rent free forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Star Fox, that Star Fox series and Star Fox 64 being my favorite game that I didn't work on. The two that I love that I did work on are Dust: An Elysian Tale, where I was the voice director, and Dragalia Lost, which is the only video game that I have been in thus far.
Yeah, I know you actually I know you stream on your Twitch channel. And I know
Mhm.
that you also stream like you play the games that you actually voice direct because I've seen a few of your streams on Twitch.
Oh,
And
awesome. Yes.
and you have mentioned, oh, I actually voice directed this game. And it's like that's really cool. You're playing the game that you actually voice directed. That's
Oh,
really
yes. Dust and all the everything involving in the creation of that game is very special to me. That one in particular. So many very prominent voice actors nowadays got their start with that one because I was specifically looking to hire and cast people who were on Newgrounds, people who were on YouTube and had never worked in the professional industry before. I wanted to teach them things that I had learned as an industry veteran and help build them up. So if anybody ever goes through the cast list of that game, you'll see some names that'll make you say, whoa, like Lizzie Freeman, Xander Mobus, Justin Briner, people who have gone on to do My Hero Academia, Persona,
cool.
Smash Brothers, the amazing Digital Circus. So many of them got their start right there. So that one means the whole world to me. And I will say this: primarily, what I do play on my streams is Sonic games, which, like I said, I didn't grow up with, so I'm not typically the best at. But Star Fox is one I'm glad I got to stream because I got to prove that I actually can be good at video game. I can. Uh, Sonic just hasn't been it for me as far as the skill issues or the memorization of the stage and whatnot.
Mm. Yeah. I watched it, I was like, and I also noticed that you actually did a reaction stream to the recently released Sonic movie 3. So what
Yes.
are your thoughts on that? I'm very curious.
That's right. And I wasn't really planning on doing it as well. It was just like a last minute thing. And I'm just like, well, I'm up, so may as well. Let's go on. And so I started out just killing a little bit of time. I was playing Sonic Chaos, not to be confused with Chaos Sonic. I was playing the Game Gear game Sonic Chaos for a few minutes while I waited for the trailer to release, and then I watched the trailer along with everybody, and I said, "Wow, you had like literally all of these things were in there, except for a couple girls that I would love to see, and I hope show up at some point." But I could not be happier for everybody who worked on that. Looks like it's coming together amazingly. You can tell there's a lot of love, there's a lot of passion going into that. Jim Carrey seems to be having the time of his life. We've gotten the 90s Jim Carrey has returned for this series, even though he's all but retired from everything else. So
Mhm.
I love to see that. And Lee Majdoub, Agent Stone, I am so happy for that guy. We have not met in person. We've had the briefest of interactions online, but he is a friend of friends, and he is as wholesome as you could possibly imagine. That is that guy. And the fact that he is getting to live out that dream, acting alongside Jim Carrey, I love seeing it. And I'm looking forward to seeing it in theaters.
Yeah, like I actually got to meet Lee Majdoub at
Oh,
this year's
nice.
in person because we actually got Lee Majdoub for this year's Sonic Revolution in person event.
Very
And
cool.
and it yeah, and I can vouch for you, Devin. He's a very, very down to earth guy. Like he actually told me like a behind the scenes of one of the scenes that he
Mhm.
did. Like, and he said there's the scene, if you guys remember, that there's Jim Carrey puts the blue quill in his mouth and he does that weird that
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I remember that.
Lee Majdoub actually told me when I asked him at the Revel in person, and he told me the
Mhm.
little story that like every time Jim Carrey kept doing that, he kept ruining the take by laughing. So,
Oh no.
and he said that in the scene that got into the movies, that when he had to look away and make a disgusted look, that was his way to not laugh and look at him. So that
Oh,
was
I'm
the
gonna have to
story.
rewatch and look for that. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what he actually told me. And every time he ruined the take, he told me Jim Carrey looked at him. It's like with serious face, dude, you ruined the take. And I was like, he actually said
Oh
that.
no.
And Lee's like, yeah, he did.
I
So
feel like that's gotta be its own challenge in its own right for any actor, just like sharing a scene with Jim Carrey, because the way that guy can move his body and change his face, it's like he's made of plasticine and rubber. Humans aren't supposed to be able to move like that, and yet he can. So I can't blame Lee in the slightest. I know that that would have been me.
yeah. Yeah, that's that's what I learned from Lee when I talked to him and stuff. Ooh, I see another question from Kevin. My next question is, who is the one Sonic voice actor you would like to meet the most? Ooh.
Okay. Well, oh man, I really really do want to meet all of them, and I am yet to meet. I'm yet to meet Ryan Drummond and Roger the Craig Smith and Jaleel White, and all of them seem like really really cool people. So this is no disrespect to anybody at all. And Martin Burke, although he is very very elusive, I don't know where he is and how to find him. I would love to meet him as well. Um, and Junichi. I have to go with Jaleel White because I grew up watching that guy on Family Matters every single Friday night. It was a family event to go and watch that guy on TV for me, and he was my very very first Sonic. So I gotta say him, and I also know he's a bit of a basketball dude as well. I don't know if he grew up wanting to be a basketball player, but I know that we could still connect on that front too. So if I have to pick one, it's him. But this is no shade to any of them. all of them are phenomenal talents. If somebody were to ask me who my favorite Sonic voice is, I don't even have an answer for that. So this is just strictly on the topic of who I'd want to meet, and that's the guy that I grew up as a little kid looking up to.
Yeah, like it's just very interesting that he voices like Sonic in the 90s Sonic cartoons, and then it's like,
Mhm.
and then he plays the popular Steve Urkel,
That's
you
right.
know. It's
Steve
like,
Urkel, as well as the very cool Stefan Urkel. And again, what a cool guy.
yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Like Jaleel White, like he just has like this charisma about him.
Mhm.
Like
Or Riz as the kids say. He's got the Riz. I just made myself seem very old. But yeah, there's something about him where like he's got that sort of energy, that cool energy where he's very, very laid back, doesn't take himself too seriously though, can still poke fun at himself. And I just think that that's great.
mhm. Ooh, okay. I see another question in the chat by SB Zeal. A bit of Ninjago slash Sonic crossover question for you, Devin. If Sonic and Aaron ever met, how do you think they would interact?
Wow. Well, I feel like if Sonic were to exist in Aaron's world, I already know that Aaron would be a huge fan of him and would have played all of the games. I'm not sure if Sonic would exist as a video game character in his world or as an actual entity in his world. But either way, Aaron would be a tremendous fanboy of his. I have no doubt about that. And I'm sure that Aaron would happily offer him a chili pie, which I'm sure he'd find a way to make that happen.
Oh, interesting.
I know that chili pizza is very possible because I've made it before, but chili dog pie, I'd love to see that.
Ooh, interesting. I'm very curious, Devin. Have you attended the Sonic Symphony? And if you did, what did you think of it?
I did. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend the one in San Diego, which was literally occurring as my
Ooh.
plane was flying away. When I went to the Speed Cafe, a lot of people said like, "Hey, you're going to Symphony next." I'm like, "Nope." But earlier this year, I went to the one in Toronto that was back in February, and I had a Sonic inspired outfit on. It was not cosplay. It was a suit, but it was still very Sonic inspired. And so a lot of people were kind of looking at like, wow, that I guess that guy really likes Sonic. What a nice outfit. And so I was just kind of there as a regular person, but it was still really, really special. I was sitting next to a little kid who was seemed like he was maybe like I want to say 8 or 9 years old, and he was there with his dad who was about 49, and it was really, really wholesome because his dad, I believe his dad had like owned like a Sega Saturn and had like played some of the like Genesis games growing up, but he wasn't familiar with the newer ones. But he and his son were both like connecting and bonding over this event. So I'm just like, you know what? This is so wholesome. I'm gonna tell this kid who I am on the low key, and I'm gonna just sign some stuff for him. So that was really wholesome. But a particular moment though, where I got a little bit choked up. I'm not somebody who like cries. That's just not really me. But again, respect to those who are just comfortable sharing your feelings because you should be able to do that. But I got very kind of like hit when everybody was just like unified in singing live and learn, just everybody just so happy and united in that spirit of creativity and celebration of these characters and just all the joy in the arena. And the fact that I'm just like, yo, they might not know who I am personally, but I get to be part of this. It kind of hit me for a second where I was just like, This is cool. This is cool. So it was definitely one of the most surreal moments I ever got to ever got to experience live. And as I was leaving, there was and during the intermission, there was a small handful of people who knew who I was, and I signed some things. I took some pictures with them as well. But all in all, just one of the best nights of my life. The All of the joy that was in that building, all of the love that was there. I was so grateful that I got to take that in, and again, that I get to be a part of this incredible franchise in any, even the smallest capacity.
That is very wonderful. Yeah, I actually went to the Sonic Symphony in LA last year. That
Nice.
show. Yeah,
How did you like
and
it?
I enjoyed it a lot too. Like I try to be sure I didn't yell because if I yelled, then my voice is gonna be shot.
Hmm.
So I was careful with my voice when I
Very
was like,
wise.
to not scream too much, otherwise it's gonna affect my voice. But I
Hmm.
really enjoyed it. I got to see it with my friends, and for those who have been listening to my other Q&As, I actually did a Q&A with Shota Nakama earlier this year, back in
Oh,
January.
nice. No
Yeah,
way.
very very nice guy. And I actually he was actually at the Sonic Speed Cafe on Thursday because he actually wanted to eat lunch there, and then he actually had a meet and greet there on Friday.
I saw some
During
pictures of that. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made me wish that I'd visited the day before. Because again, I had no idea that the Speed Cafe was even a thing until that very same day, the Saturday when I saw it. But oh, that's so cool you got to meet him.
Yeah, he's like he's such a very nice guy.
Mhm.
Very sweet, and of course he is trying his best to actually get to get the Sonic Symphony in South America. He told me that in his
Yes.
Q&A.
I would
Yeah.
love that. Yeah. Again, it's supposed to be a worldwide tour, so I would love to see it become much more worldwide. One of the coolest things for me, actually, I wish I could remember what country he was from, but when I was at the Toronto show, somebody that I met as I was leaving was a doctor who had traveled from either Mexico or Brazil. I forget which one, but he likes to try to just go around to all the different shows wherever he can. I believe he went to the one in Japan, he went to one in France. And his whole thing as a medical doctor who deals with a lot of kids, he has a doctor's office that is just filled with Sonic plushies and Sonic toys everywhere. And when I met him, he had a bag filled with more Sonic things that he had bought that he'll sometimes give to the kids or just have the kids surrounded by them. So when they're going in for their checkup or to get a needle or something, they feel way safer and way more comfortable because the presence of Sonic is there. He kind of is embodying and representing just the comfort that Sonic brings to so many people. And I'm like, yo, that is the most special, wholesome thing. And I feel like even though he's not playing the character in an official capacity, he is much as I am still representing the character and what he does. And stuff like that is just so special and meaningful. So yeah, again, it just unites all kinds of people. That's what makes the Sonic fandom and franchise in the world of all those characters so special.
Wow, that's very nice of him to be doing that.
Mhm.
Because
Really, really cool guy.
it kind of feels like he's like a Sonic Santa Claus.
Yes. Oh, that I'm gonna tell him that. He's gonna love that.
Because he's literally giving gifts of like Sonic specifically to all those kids, and it's like that's what Santa Claus does, gives presents to the
Absolutely.
kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm very curious to know, which song did you like from the Sonic Symphony when you went to the Toronto show?
Um, I know that most people's favorite are Live and Learn, Open Your Heart. Those are wonderful songs. Absolutely wonderful songs. But for me, I kind of go with one that's still pretty popular, but not as commonly stated as like the main one. I really, really like Night of the Wind. I really really love that one. Um, yeah, so that's the one where even though I don't know the lyrics to it, I was still kind of just like popping off. I'm like, all right, let's go, let's go. Um, yeah, that's gonna be the one I'm gonna go with because unfortunately they did not have seven rings in hand. So that's what I'm going with instead because that one was not at the symphony.
Mm. Oh, okay. Here is my last question for you, Devin.
Okay.
Um, like what recommendation would you give to those who are in the process of creating their own demo reel? Like, how long should a demo reel be?
All right. Now, here's a great question to close with because this is kind of one of my specialties. So, when you are making a demo reel, it needs to be all about what your particular goals are. Now, if you're somebody who's wanting to do fan projects, then by all means put a bunch of like your different impressions of favorite characters in there and all that. But if your goal is to try to take this to doing original stuff and whatnot, then you don't want to have your very obvious impressions in there. There's already somebody doing Mario voices. There's already somebody doing Sonic voices and Family Guy characters and all that stuff. So you definitely want something that's going to stand out as original and not have people immediately compare you to another actor already playing that role. Typically, you want a demo to be about, I want to say about a minute long, maybe a minute and a half tops, but ideal to be closer to a minute. And a good demo doesn't just show off a voice, it shows that you can act in that voice, that you can make choices in that voice. So maybe you'd have a character who is going through something where maybe they kind of start off maybe more low key and then their energy builds up as they get further along. So you establish the voice saying, like, all right, everybody, we're going to go in there on three. One, two, three, let's go, let's strike. So you show a character in multiple levels that shows that you can bring variation, emotional range to the role. And I will say this as well. If you can do an impression of a character that is a failed impression of a character, that makes for a great original new voice. So let's say you wanted to be an evil villain sort of character. You might read a line that's maybe you pick up a comic book and you'd read something that says, I'm the Joker and I'm going to defeat you, Batman. And then people would say, hey, there's a Joker voice out there already. We're not looking for the Joker. So instead, maybe change those lines again and be like, I'm Dr. Destruction and I'm going to defeat you, Steve. Suddenly you have a totally new original character that can stand out as its own thing. So that's a great way to get inspiration for, oh my goodness, somebody is calling me to coach them right now. So I'm glad that this is about to end because I'm going to be coaching somebody on some demo stuff very soon. Um, long story short, try to take in all of these different influences and inspirations across various genres. Watch and study different types of performances, not just anime, because like I said, anime actors are restricted to what is already on the screen. They can't practice their own pacing and show off all their own natural acting. So watch a wide variety of things, live action things as well, different kinds of genres. And I would say the most valuable skill that you can have is showing off something unexpected, because it's the unexpected stuff that makes people laugh. So watch comedians, see how they will set up their jokes, because if you can make people laugh at something that isn't funny, then you're already ahead of the curve. That's one of the most valuable things you can have in your tool chest. So yeah, as far as voice demos go, always remember that variety is really the most valuable thing that you can show off, And even if you can't do a whole bunch of completely different voices that sound nothing alike, that's okay. Make it about showing off different emotional levels, different kind of situations that you could put a character into, different kinds of energy. All of that really, really matters. How would you behave if you're talking to somebody, maybe an enemy that's on the opposite side of you in the middle of a battle, versus how you would comfort a really, really scared kid? Show off all that kind of stuff. On average, I would say spend about 6 to 9 seconds on each voice before moving on to the next, and always make it about showing off emotion. It's about emotional choices, not just voices. So there you go. One last long winded answer.
Wow, that's so interesting. Very, very, very insightful, Devin.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Unfortunately, I will have to end this live stream, but I want to thank you guys for tuning in for the 20th episode of Goddess Spotlight with Liaserenityrose. And I want to thank you, Deven Mack, for taking time off your busy schedule to do this Q&A. And
Yeah,
it was,
thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
yeah. So make sure that you guys be on the lookout. I have 3 episodes in the works for Goddess Spotlight with Liaserenityrose. So be on the lookout for those announcements, as well as the next episode of the Lucky Charm podcast, and as well as the Tangle and Blaze episode. We're still in the rescheduling planning progress of that. So I want to thank you all for being here and tuning in and asking Devin all these amazing questions. And this is for you guys supporting. For I have reached 3K subscribers on my YouTube channel. So this was my gift to
Hey,
you guys.
congratulations.
Thank you, Devin. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful day. And this is Leah, and bye everyone.
You guys are way cool.